Hello and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.1.0.1230, the latest KSP release on the 64-bit platform now. Yay! I decided to make this video today to share a bit of an epiphany I've had when it comes to importing craft that you developed in 1.0.5 into 1.1. And the issue that I came across was that the craft I'd built, a space plane, actually would start to yaw monumentally across the runway upon attempting to take off, which is something it never did in 1.05. Now, I'll demonstrate exactly what I mean by loading up the craft and showing you. So there it is. Now, this craft is what I just downloaded from KerbalX, where I loaded my craft to save them so that there's always a repository, a backup. And I haven't made any changes to it, exactly as it was in 1.0.5 when it would take off perfectly. No interaction from me, no interference. It would just go down the runway and then I'd have to hit the S key and up she'd go. So, put on the brakes, RCS and SAS, throttle up, and engines and brakes off. And I've enabled aerodynamic forces overlay so you can see what happens when she starts to yaw. It will take a second to get up to speed because she is a heavy craft. But this is the first thing I did. I tried to play it in 1.1 in the pre-release, and I found this problem, and I couldn't figure out at the time what was causing it, because there's no update to aerodynamics or atmospherics or anything along that nature. But here we go, starting to pull out on the yaw now, and I'm not pressing any of the controls here. This is just the craft on its own, which should, according to 1.0.5, just take off. But nope, it's yawing to the left, and it's going to go right over the edge of the runway. And it's going to probably hit something or blow up or get torn asunder or whatever. But I designed this craft to be easy to fly, so I just have to press down and it would go up, and that was it. But with 1.1 it wasn't doing it. So before we blow, we will revert the flight back to the space plane hangar. And I found out what caused the problem. As it turns out, it's got nothing to do with atmospherics or aerodynamics, it's all about the new wheels. Now, these large landing gear, they don't have any steering on them, so I can't steer just using the wheels. But that was not always the case. I could never do anything with that. Now, with the new added friction control, you can sort of steer, but that's not what it's meant for. Friction control just basically means that if I've got the brakes on the runway, I might still be able to go forward with enough thrust to, because it overcomes the friction. But it also has a level of 0 to 5. So what I've found is, if I set the front wheel to 0, this means that this has no friction basically. There's no friction with the ground, and it will slide backwards, forwards, or left and right. And I also had the same thing on the back wheels, because obviously it was new and I didn't realise the change. Now, if we change the back wheels to a friction of 5, and leave the front wheel at 0, that will mean that the front can sort of turn or twist if I want it to. But if I don't want it to, if I just want it to stay as, the back wheels will keep it in check. I do have a middle wheel here, which in all honesty could be removed if I wanted to. There's no real point to it, and I probably will do that in the next iteration. But by doing that, there's more friction on the back, where the thrust is coming from, stopping it from spinning out all over the place because I've got wheels on both sides. So this wheel and this wheel stop the front end from wibbling about all over the place. And if I take it out again, I can demonstrate the principle. Now, the other thing you've got to be aware of and careful of is that the friction control relates to the brakes as well. So if you have a 0 friction control on every wheel and you hit brakes, you're barely going to slow down any. So it's good to have friction control on as well for that reason. So you can't just set them all to 5, because then you might implode yourself by braking too hard and this, that and the other. So once again, we will activate the aerodynamic forces overlay, throttle up, RCS, SAS, engines and brakes off. And again, it'll just take a second to get up to speed here. So there you go. Now at the moment we've got no yawing whatsoever, and we've only just started off, but at this point, compared to the last one, we should be seeing some effect. Now that's not to say there won't be any yaw here, because the way this craft is designed, I think there is a bit of a roll in it possibly when it's on the ground and in the air, but normally when you're in the air you can compensate. When you're on the ground it's a bit more difficult. But this means that now it's working as it was in 1.0.5. So there's the yaw a little bit trying to kick in, but it's going to the end of the runway. I'm not pressing anything again, it's just doing what it's doing, and it's going to go right to the end of the runway, and all I'll have to do is hit S and carry this thing up into the air. And there is a little bit yaw which is taking over the side, and a little bit of wobble on the front, but that's because the back is trying to keep everything locked down while the front is all over the place. So there we go, and now we are up in the air and flying as this craft was intended to. So that's the problem. It's all about the friction on the wheels. And if you're having the same issue, it's probably going to be the same problem for you as well. But what I'll do as well is I'll show you why the friction on the wheel can be a good thing. So we'll load up one of the stock craft here. Now, these small wheels do have steering enabled, so I'm going to disable it. And it's not enabled on the rear wheels either. We're also going to have a look at friction control. The front friction we want to 0, back friction we'll want at 5, and this also means that the braking comes from the back as well, where on the other craft the main majority of the centre of mass is. So we'll fly out now. Okay, so if we just do a little bit of thrust, because we just want the driving here. Now remember, the front wheels have no steering, it is disabled. So if I activate the engine and then take off the brakes, we'll start to move. So we'll just get up to 10 meters per second and kill the brakes. So there's no steering, but with the wing surfaces and the wheel at the front being no friction, I can steer. With the back wheels having the friction, I can still brake. But if I take the friction on the front and make it 5, then again, throttle up to get a bit of speed going. And the steering is still disabled on the front. Watch what happens. It does not move anywhere near as easily. So on larger craft where you need larger landing gear that don't have steering, the ability to have frictionless front wheels is a help because it will help you steer. So the best thing to do is have your back wheels creating the braking force, your front wheels having the steering force. And you can of course alter these in flight, so as we are now, we're moving, I can change the friction control back to 0 and spin round. But that might be the issue you're having, so you'll need to set up a craft like this for a space plane so that basically there's enough friction to keep you from sliding all over the bloody place. Because friction is not just back and forward, it is also left and right. And that's what happened to me. So I hope this was useful and maybe shed some light on any problems you might have been having with the craft and why you are having them. Any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them if I can. But that's all we've got today. So until next time, take care.